Hey everyone, what's going on? I want to introduce somebody who I've known for a very long time. A good friend of mine. I see her all around the community. She's super involved in a bunch of networking events and an overall great person. My friend Avni Levy. She is an award-winning visual storyteller and business owner. And she's also an educator with this rebellious Silicon Valley spirit. She's lived around the world teaching and studying media and creativity. She recently came back to the Bay, where she grew up, to start her own video and photography business, and she helps impact-driven entrepreneurs learn to use visual storytelling as an integral part of their marketing strategy. Avni, what's going on?
Hey everyone, really excited to talk to you about content creation today, especially with everything going on. Hopefully, I can share some resources and give some value to people out there.
Cool, awesome. So how is business for you? Like, let's just kind of have a general conversation. Like, how's business? Like,
hmm
how are you talking to your customers? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I think initially for everyone, there was this shock, right? And especially for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do in person shoots anymore for maybe 1 or 2 months. Hopefully, not more than 2 months, but that was like, okay, so I really do have to take things online. And in terms of lifestyle shift, it wasn't so dramatic because I do work from home a lot. I do a lot of editing. I do a lot of email outreach. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the business that's not the creation part of it. But at the same time, if I don't have those shoots, it felt devastating initially. So that's been something I've been grappling with, and now it's okay. What can I do to still serve my community in a way that's remote?
Yeah, so what do you see yourself doing today? Like, I know we talked a little bit prior. What are you doing today to like kind of help serve your community during this kind of downtime?
Yeah, well, a big thing is going to be teaching, so online teaching. I actually did start teaching a video boot camp for small business owners who want to create their own content. That was a few weeks ago. So I'm actually in the middle of teaching that live class with my students now. So fortunately, I had that going a few weeks ago. And so what I'm seeing myself do more of is that kind of thing where I'm teaching businesses how to create their own content. In fact, I'm doing something for gym owners who have had to shut their doors temporarily. I think you know that I am a avid gym person now as of like 1 year. And so my own gym, they have, had to shift things to online, and it felt like that was a good time for me to come in and start to share, like, okay, how can we make this transition to these online environments more smooth and more fun?
Cool. And then so I'll put a link in the description for all this cool stuff that you're working on. So yeah, I've seen a lot of Avni's videos. Avni is like extremely talented. I know we talked a little bit about like interactive videos. Want to talk
hmm
a little bit about that?
Yeah. So another thing, so as a creative person, I'm sure a lot of creatives out there can listen. I do have several things that I'm working on, and that's one of the benefits of this whole quarantine is that I will have more time to work on those side projects. So interactive video, this is basically a choose your own adventure style experience where it's almost like a video game where you're taking on the role of a character, you're making choices in a story, and it's a new way to really advertise your product or generate empathy for a story or a character or engagement with a brand in a way that's just more interactive. So it's more you as a user have more agency in this kind of experience. So that is something that I am working on.
Cool. Awesome. So let's kind of jump right into it. Let's talk content. So we're all on quarantine. A lot of us have businesses. A lot of us are like solo entrepreneurs. A lot of us are influencers. Like, how can we create content during this time? Like, what's your like pro thoughts on this?
Right. Well, even before I get into that, just as a reminder, and I think because we're in this time of crisis right now, I just want to remind all business owners that your value is not dependent upon how many clients you have or how much money you make, right? You really have to detach yourself from that. I think just in business in general, but especially now where you may not have that consistent income for a while. So first, remove yourself from that concept, and then recognize that all content needs to come from a place of service. So on the positive side, right now especially is a great time for stories. We're hardwired to want stories, and they really have the power to reassure us. And good things happen when you share your own story in an authentic way. So that's where I would start is come from a place of service, and share your own story.
So when we're talking about stories, like, so what kind of stories do you mean? Is it more like, how I develop my business, or is it more like a survival story, like how I survived through this time? Like, what do you recommend?
hmm so there's all kinds of stories. There's the smaller stories. So I actually, right before this call, I wrote out a little story about how when I was 7 years old, I was in these horseback riding lessons and I fell off the horse. I was, we were going at a pretty fast speed. I fell flat on my back. I was winded. I was a little shaken. Dad comes running over. The trainer is there. And she basically just has me get back on the horse. And I'm a little shaken, but it's fine. And I've never been like traumatized from that event. And I love horses and I love being around horses right today. So the level one, that's like a level one story, like getting back on the horse, right? The level two version of that goes a little bit deeper. And so interestingly, 25 years later, I went to volunteer to help take care of some horses at a ranch. I went with a couple of friends and it turned out they were actually pretty scared of horses. In fact, one had quite an aversion to them. And it turned out that she had had a traumatic experience where she had fallen off a horse, that she'd sort of gotten dragged behind the horse, getting stuck in the reins. And that made me wonder, like, had she ever gotten back on the horse after that? And my instinct is that she probably didn't, because she really had a fear. And it threw my whole childhood experience into a new perspective. Like, did I just get lucky, or did I have a great teacher? And I think it was probably a combination of both. And that combination is what you need in business, right? You need a bit of luck, and you need some people around you to support you to help you get back on the horse. So that's how I would tell that story. Like, there's a level one. I could have stopped after the first part. I think level two gets in a little bit deeper. And then level three would be, okay, the next step is how do you help your clients take action from that story? So then I could talk about building that supportive community, right? So that when we fall off the horse in business, we have the people around us to help us get back on.
Got it. Wow. So as we're telling the story, like as we work with, all these people that are looking to create all this new content, does it require us to have certain kind of equipment, like during this time? Because I know it's not a lot of people are going out. Like, can we use our cell phones? Like, can we do it from our computers? Like, do we need big camera equipment? Like, what do you recommend?
I think the best camera is the one you have. So for most people, that's going to be your iPhone or your Android. I think especially with Instagram stories, that's getting a lot of traction right now, much more than our static feed. So if you want to get your story out there quickly, I definitely recommend Instagram stories, and then just reposting that content to your Facebook stories. If you do have better equipment, now is a great time to start practicing it, learning the tools. But generally, with whatever you have, you want to master the tool that you have so that you can focus more on the story rather than getting caught up in the technical aspect of whatever camera you're using.
And then so this might sound like a dumb question, but is social media the best outlet right now to be posting content?
I think it's still very important. I think we have to be careful with what we're sharing. So, my general rule of thumb for social media content is it needs to either inspire, inform, or entertain. And with each of those things right now, we can kind of look at those in different ways. So, in terms of inspiring stories, when was there a time that you went through something like this? Was there another situation that you went through where you maybe you thought the world was ending, but you're able to come out of that? So we like those inspiring stories of redemption. For the informative stories, I would be very careful with this one. So especially with all the stories about coronavirus and people sharing misinformation or past truths, or because the information is coming out so quickly, we don't really know the whole story and a lot of it's speculation. I would be really careful with sharing informative content about coronavirus. Instead, I would keep that informative content about you and your services. So what are you doing? How can other people still support you? How can you support each other? Stuff like that. And then for the last thing, for entertaining content, I think there is actually a great opportunity for that right now. So I think with everything that's happened in the last week, there were sort of these two waves of panic, right? There was when there's a national emergency, and then there was the shelter in place order. And so these two waves, I think now we're maybe coming into a period where we're accepting that, okay, we're going to be sort of stuck at home for a while. This is the new normal. I think we're starting to come to terms with that and seeing things level off, at least from an anxiety perspective. And so we do want that good news. We want the entertaining content. We want to see more positivity, right? So I think in terms of what content we can create that's entertaining, we can start to share more humorous stuff and just more positive things about like the world outside of coronavirus.
I agree 110%. So I think we're just gonna wrap it up here. I am so happy you took the time out to really, sit down and talk to me and talk to the people and really spread a message.
Good.
So plug your social.
Yes. So you can follow me at Avni Create. That's AVNI Create CREATES. On Instagram, I also have a newsletter that I put out every week. It's called 5 Good Things, and I'm really enjoying writing that in this moment because it's different. It's just a way for me to get away from all of the bad news, and I think for my subscribers as well. So there's that if you want more information.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to y'all later.